On Thursday, Rockstar made a pretty explosive announcement regarding the increase and decrease of some of the prices for vehicles in GTA Online. Some of the more notable highlights of that are obviously the Oppressor Mark II, now going to cost $8 million starting on April 27th. For the full list and discussion about that, do check out that video. I want to stress again before I start with my suggestions and also the suggestions from Twitch chat as well as the YouTube community page that I posted, that I still very much feel that this is really a band-aid fix and that Rockstar with this is completely ignoring the fact that this should instead just simply be fixes to the vehicles themselves rather than the prices. Increasing stuff for an Oppressor Mark II is not going to do anything to the game as a whole. It's just simply going to make stuff more inaccessible for newer players or casuals who would like to have a shot at these vehicles as well. Having said that, let's go down the list of some of the suggestions that were given to me as well that I have personally. As for vehicles that we would like to see a decrease in, the Adder, as well as basically a heap of other old school vehicles that have been in the game since 2013, something like a Z-Type still costing $1 million as well as an Adder, doesn't make a whole lot of sense based on how slow they are nowadays. Having old vehicles have a permanently decreased price will give them more of a reason for people to try out if they never bother to do so. Why would you spend $1 million in an Adder when for a couple $100,000 more you can own something like a Wagner or anything along those lines? The Swift and the Luxor Deluxe, you know, the gold plane and helicopter. Back in the day, it was like the prestigious thing to own, but based on the fact that you're basically now spending almost as much on that as you do on the Oppressor Mark II, the balance isn't there at all. It's literally just the Luxor or the Swift, but then with a gold color. $5 and $10 million respectively is just simply way too much money, and I would like to see a decrease in there. I'd be inclined to say slash it in half, because honestly a gold color only, especially now that you can change the color in your hangar to these vehicles, is just completely useless. The next suggestion actually was brought up in my Twitch chat quite a few times. The Lynx, coming in at a $1.7 million price tag, is not that good of a sports car, and the Pariah costs about the same and is the fastest sport car in a straight line. There's a lot of imbalance when it comes to performance of the vehicle versus how much you're paying for. Now, I don't exactly know the logic behind pricing certain vehicles for how much they cost. Maybe it's because of customization, or maybe it's because of the performance, but most of the time, yeah, there's definitely a lot of work to be done there if you want to, for example, make some more variety happen within the races, because, you know, right now everyone is using the same cars. I don't entirely think that people will just magically start buying different cars because they're cheaper now, so, you know, maybe they start using something else in the Krieger, for example, in super races. But I do think, for example, an X80 Proto is not the worst car in its class, but it's a bit more in the mid-pack, so why is it still costing $2.7 million? I think it makes total sense to have like the best cars within the game, like, you know, cost a little bit more because you're paying for its performance, but if you have some of the more underperforming cars cost as much as the top performing cars, that doesn't make an awful lot of sense. So having the more older vehicles and the vehicles that aren't as good in terms of performance, like lower down in cost, will probably go a long way for people to be enticed to go and give them a try. Maybe mixing up the variety within races. Then again, we all know that is unlikely to happen because people just want to win races with the best car, but, you know, one can dream, and at the very least it'd be a nice gesture. The Alkonost, a plane that's, yeah, it exists, but yeah, it just doesn't really do a whole lot. Like, same thing kind of goes for the Volatile. You know, those really wide and large planes that are just kind of more like a meme. They really have no reason to cost as much as they do. The same thing goes for the Festival Bus and the Dump. If you want to look at vehicles that are unique and are just, you know, like something different than the rest of the norm, those are two vehicles that stand out as well. Like, why do we have to pay $1.7 million for a Festival Bus and $1 million for a Dump? They're just cool, fun vehicles, and you could do some really fun and interesting things with the Festival Bus if you have a couple of buddies just around that want to just shoot the shit for a little while. The Annihilator and the Annihilator Stealth, two relatively useless helicopters that could definitely do with a price decrease, because oh boy, yeah, they're not that good and they're way too expensive for what exactly they are. I wish the Annihilator was a lot more like the one in GTA 4. That'd be great. The Rocket Voltic, and well, basically all the import and export cars that haven't been discounted yet. Because if you look at the Phantom Wedge, for example, talk about something unique and interesting. Same for the Rocket Voltic or any of those cars, really. They don't really do anything in terms of PvP, but they're fun to use and they're unique and interesting. So encourage more people to give them a try. I don't really feel like spending 2-3 million on the Phantom Wedge, because, you know, there's not really much of a reason to do so, other than the fact that it's useful within missions. The Smugglers Run planes, honestly, there are some of the more unique and interesting vehicles within the game, but they cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. And the same thing goes for the Chula and the Bambushka. While they're already being discounted, they're still $4 million, which is still way too much money. So I'm kind of asking Rockstar to reconsider and lower those prices even further. Something like the Bambushka is something that is still not appealing to purchase, and the same thing goes for the Chula. Both are costing $4 million still, and I cannot even say with good consensus that these will be worth the money. Now, having said that, this is all buy it now prices and there's 25% off still, but have a look at it again if you could, Rockstar. The gun-running vehicles is definitely also something that is worth looking into. Leave the Insurgent for what it is, though. Definitely don't mess around with that one. And especially the Nightshark, don't touch the price of that one. It's not that amazing of a vehicle, but it does provide for some very good protection against being blown up by air vehicles or oppressors. Having said that, I think if Rockstar wanted to do anything about this vehicle in terms of, like, you know, trying to touch it in terms of making it a little less powerful, I would be inclined to say that the main power that this vehicle has is the fact that it doesn't have its unique icon on the map. So instead of touching the price here, if they want to do anything about the Nightshark, just give it an icon on the map rather than having to adjust the price of it. Because honestly, having to spend more than $1.2 million on a vehicle that is as useful as this for those folks who just want to be left alone is something that should not be happening. The Super Yacht is way too expensive. It's a floating hotel and that's really about it. Maybe like slice the price with a couple of million or $1 million or something to make it more appealing, especially now that there's also those interesting missions attached to them too, and some of the other things. Generally speaking, it's just a floating apartment, and having that price cut down and more accessible for some folks to check it out as well will definitely be a good idea, especially if you'd also decide to cut down the price on the Luxor and the Swift Deluxe. Having this cut down is a no-brainer. The tugboat, a fire truck, an RCV, as well as the submarines, all unique and interesting vehicles that have no business being as expensive as they actually are. They provide some interesting and different things you can do within the game, but encourage them to be used in something else than just rotting in your garage or just staying on the website is something that will go a long way. Speaking of going a long way, the open wheel cars. There is literally a game mode attached to it, and I don't think everyone is going to find it worth spending $3 million on these things when the game mode itself is pretty much dead in the water. Unless there's double cash and RP going on, there's still a heap of people just doing nothing but using stock cars in these. Being able to get these cars a new life by giving them a more accessible price will allow the game mode maybe to flourish a little bit more, even if it's just only double cash NRP weekends. The Weaponized Ignis, I'm gonna have to kindly ask Rockstar to reconsider the pricing on this. I recognize the fact that it has the Imani tech now, thanks to a YouTube commenter who pointed that out, and the fact that it has HSW on the current gen consoles, but pretty please, $4.5 million on this thing? Really? I know it's fast, I know it protects you against lock-on missiles, but I mean, $4.5 million, and then the Imani tech, and then the HSW, you're probably looking at close to $6 million for a supercar. Really? Like, it is not that weaponized. It just has a machine gun that can barely turn. It's not that good. Come on. And finally, for the price decreases, I'm gonna shock a few people by saying the Arena War vehicles. Now, while I'm not a fan of the game mode, I recognize that these vehicles are among the most unique and interesting vehicles within the game. Especially when it comes with the amount of customization you can do with it. It's just a shame that not a lot of people actually get to really play with them because of the prices that they do have. Like, we're talking millions and millions of dollars for one particular game mode that is pretty much dead, not that interesting, and I guess you should avoid, in my opinion. But aside from the game mode, vehicles, very cool. Go to the chopping block with the prices on that one, because I'm sure that many of us would love to give it a shot. And then for price increases, that list is actually a whole lot smaller because people just wanted to see things being decreased in price. Surprise, surprise. But there were a few suggestions in there that was suggesting for some price increases. The Conjali was in there, which I'm not sure how much I agree with that personally. I think that the current price of like 2-3 million or something is already quite steep for something that can be destroyed relatively easily. The Hydra was also suggested. It wouldn't really entirely surprise me that Rockstar does anything about this price, especially with the increase of the Oppressor Mark II being now much more expensive. I think a lot more people will probably gravitate towards using the Hydra or purchasing it. I'm saying this like it's gonna affect a whole lot, but I don't know. Maybe they're going to do that anyways because they're kind of teasing also some balancing to air vehicles, so maybe the laser will see a nerf, and then the Hydra will probably become the new bad boy in town that everyone's going to start gravitating towards, which is half the price of the laser, so I don't know, I guess we'll have to see. And finally, the orbital cannon. I think that if you're going to increase the price of the orbital cannon, like make it $1.5 million a shot, maybe more people will be inclined not to use it. Then again, with the amount of glitches going on in the game and the amount of money people have, people just having to be an asshole for a little bit more money might not be that much of a problem. But regardless, those are my thoughts. Let me know your suggestions in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and if you like what you see on the channel, become a member like Chloe and GTA Plus. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all later.